All right. Are you guys ready? Are we all ready to watch this together? Let's do it.
Hey Phil, how's it going?
Not bad, what's up?
I have two quick questions for you. Do you think Gan is the apple of cubing? Yo, guys. Look what I have right here. It's the newest Gan cube, the Gan 356 Air M. Let's unbox.
Hey, how much do you want to bet that I will not be mentioned in this video? He's gonna say it's a Gan cube. He's gonna say it feels really nice because it's a Gan cube.
The cube feels awesome. But wait a minute.
Oh, never mind.
It feels just the same as my XS.
Okay, so there we go. So before I watch the video, I just want to give my opinion on it. I don't think it's fair to compare Gan to Apple. Like, I understand the similarities because obviously they name the cubes the same way and the packaging is nice and, you know, whatever, and it's expensive, but the way they release cubes is not really the same. Like, I think Gan is even more excessive than Apple, right? Like, if you buy a laptop from Apple, so let's say an Apple laptop is the equivalent to a 3x3 in the market. So an Apple laptop, you don't get that many options, right? So you get what, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and then, you know, you have like whatever, a 16-inch and a 13-inch, right? But that's not that many options. So of course, each of those you can configure separately, but that's different. So the equivalent would be if Gan released 3 cubes, right? The Gan RS, which is like the MacBook Air, the X, and the XS. So the XS is like the 16-inch. The X is like a 13-inch, and in both of those you can customize however you want. Does that make sense to you guys? So Gan is almost worse than Apple because I don't think Apple's product lineup is that confusing, to be honest. I think Apple's lineup is very easy to understand. I think Gan's is very confusing, especially because the naming scheme doesn't make any sense. So I don't think Gan is the Apple of cubing. I understand why people think that, but I think that's a very bad comparison.
It is their overpriced products. Let's be real here. If you want to have a MacBook with the same specs as your Windows computer, you will definitely pay a lot more. Now, can we say the same thing about Gan cubes?
That is an outdated opinion, by the way. Windows laptops with the same build quality as MacBooks are basically the same price. You know, in the past, you know, if you only care about performance, yeah, for sure, you know, a Windows machine is going to be more powerful for the same price. But when you compare things, you know, making sure everything is equal except for the operating system, I don't think that that's a fair comparison. It's a very outdated opinion. Anyway, just a spiel. I still don't use Mac, like I still use Windows, and Linux, but I no longer think that Apple is like price gouging like they used to, because I think everyone has caught up.
I think we can. I mean, if we go to the cubicle.com, best site ever, by the way, the 356M, and then the iPhone XR, last year's model, the Gan 356X.
Okay.
You see the resemblance? But
okay, so I was comparing Gan to Apple laptops, and I guess it makes more sense to compare it to phones because that's what the naming scheme is like, right? It's like X, XS, etc. So, okay, we'll see where this goes.
Gan also has a 356RS, which is super cheap in Gan standards. And Apple doesn't really have a super cheap product. Same for the Monster Go cubes. I don't really see where they would fit. But besides those two cubes,
right. Okay, but that's sort of the point that I was making before, right? Is that like I still think Apple's lineup is more obvious. It's like more obvious what the differences are between each of the phones, whereas with cubes, it's like it's like too similar. You know what I mean? Like there's not enough that makes each cube unique. I think with the phones, there's actually a reason why someone would buy each of those phones. Whereas, yeah, I can't see the same differentiating factors in Gan cubes. Yep, exactly. And the iPhone names are explicitly referring to generations. Gan cubes are kind of released whenever they want. I mean, they have a schedule, but it's like, you know, it's not. Anyway, I think the differences between the cubes are not clear. I mean, that looks pretty sick, though. Like, I won't lie.
It would definitely be Gan.
I like this gold logo.
Okay, so both Gan and Apple products are expensive.
Did you see the $999.69 price tag?
Gan and Apple products are expensive. Why are they? Like GaNCube so much. They're premium looking and feeling plastic, gorgeous colors, black internals, and most of all...
Well, all right, just to... I do think they look good, but just to challenge this a little bit. I don't know that the colors are that beautiful. I mean, they're literally identical. So these are like, one's a Moyu cube, you know, one's a GaNCube. Most of the shades are exactly the same. The plastic feels the same. I mean, the turning both feel really good. One of them is $9 and the other is $60. So I mean, the build quality. I mean, what do you mean by better build quality? My GAN XS creaks. You hear that? This is the RS3M. It's more solid. I don't know. I think this is a poor build quality than the RS3M 2020. So it's like, you know, I mean, it's opinion. It's just I just don't think it's an objective truth that GaNCubes are more premiumly built. Yeah, but if the XS is unstable, then that means it's not a good design. And if it's poorly designed, doesn't that mean that it's not the apple of cubing?
Than that. Look at this box. Now look at this box. You see any resemblance? This can't be a coincidence, right? It is like Gan is just playing along right now, being the apple of cubing, and just copy-pasted the box design. I mean, even the naming and the logo is in the same position.
I mean, yes, clearly Gan is Apple inspired. I mean, I don't think, that's a funny face. I don't think, I don't think anyone thinks differently. I mean, it's very, very clearly Apple inspired.
Now, personally, I think that the design of Gan puzzles is just the best.
Well, okay, so the thing about fancy boxes, I think this is a very fancy box. It's from the MGC lineup. I think this box looks fantastic. I mean, I don't really like this like slip-on cover thing because it's hard to take off, but like, it's the same box design, you know. It looks great, and this is a budget cube. Boxes cost pennies to make. So like to say that Gan is premium because they have an Apple looking box, it's ridiculous. You know, it's like, yeah, boxes are super cheap. It's just paper.
In all of cubing, I even heard that Gan is making these magnetic cores. I think they already use it in their newest Pyraminx. That's.
Where did you hear it from, man? Tell me.
It's just insane. I mean, they have to be the first one to try that, and I am super excited for that. So is Gan's design equal to that of Apple? That might be a difference in design, that Apple really cares a lot about having clean and understandable interfaces and UIs, while Gan...
Not to roast Gan, but you want to know another difference between Gan and Apple? Apple actually has software that works. Here's another reason why I think this comparison is bad. I'll just say I think this comparison is bad. Not the video. The video is great, but the comparison between Gan and Apple is not a good one because Apple makes like Apple is software plus hardware, right? So like fundamentally, it's a completely different industry than a Rubik's Cube, right? So like there's never going to be, I mean, unless like smart cubes have, you know, like more software. I'm not just talking about like CubeStation app, but like, you know, built-in software or something. Like, it's just weird to compare like a plastic toy to a computer and like, you know, both a hardware and a software company. So it's like it's never, you're always going to find differences between a Rubik's Cube and a laptop. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think the first comparison of the prices and, you know, trying to hype up the premium feel or like the premiumness of the cube is a good comparison, but I think everything else is kind of, it kind of falls apart after that. It is kind of funny about this. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. It's this notion of like, you know, owning a GaNCube for the sake of it being a GaNCube. So this is an XS, and I've removed the logo, and it looks really cheap. So there is something to be said about having the Gan logo that just makes the cube look a little bit more premium. For example, I think Moyu has a very ugly logo. It's like super outdated. Gan just has, yeah, it's a very clean logo, and it makes the cube look better. And once you remove the logo, it doesn't look that interesting.
Releases more products at different price points.
I watched CubeHead video on it. Do you think it's just
Look at that. You said my name.
an easy way for Gan to release many products and profit out of that, or is it just
All right, here, for that he gets a like.
them trying to make products for everyone, you know, that suits everyone's needs?
It could be one of the two things you mentioned, or both. Like, it's one of my favorite cubes, and it's actually really disappointing to see people point the finger at the cube and
Yeah, I feel this.
negative thoughts about it.
Yeah, so maybe I should clarify. So when I made that video saying I wasn't gonna review the ARM, it wasn't to say the cube was bad, right? Like, if anything, I think for some people it might be even better than the XS, because not only is it cheaper, but I assume it's lighter as well. So it wasn't to say that the cube is bad at all. It's more just that if it was going to be released so soon after all the other cubes, I feel like they could have just spent the extra time and just released, you know, the ARM instead of, you know, some other cube. You know what I mean? Like, it was more of a timing thing. So, like, on principle, I don't want to review it, but that's not to say it's not a good cube. Like, I'm sure it's going to be the main cube for a lot of people. It's just that for me, you know, I see very little value in spending however much that cube costs. I don't want to spend that kind of money.
As you mentioned before, the naming it gets confusing. I think if they can fix that, it's something that makes a lot more sense.
Yes, exactly. So they can make 100 3x3s. I don't care, but you know, don't make it seem like it's a new cube. That's all, right? It's like, instead of calling it the ARM, they should have just called it the XS Lite or something like that, and we'd be good. I'd probably get that cube. You know, I would have reviewed it. But by calling it the ARM, it sounds like it's supposed to be a flagship cube that's equivalent to the XS, and that's not what it is. So I think it's a very bad way of naming products, and that's really my issue with it. It's not the puzzle. The puzzle's fine. You know, like I watched Timon unbox his. You know, he used it already for cubing at home, and you know, it's like, it's a good cube. I don't think anyone thinks it's a bad cube. But it's a confusing cube, and that's my problem with it. That's all.
Sense, then everyone would be happy, I think.
Yeah, it's a community.
Sorry to keep pausing. I'm just reading chat. Do I think the confusing GAN naming is intentional? No. Well, maybe. You know, I don't know. I don't know how they work. But what I would say is, regardless of whether or not it was intentional, they should know better, right? If it was intentional, then for sure they should know better. If it was unintentional, they should have known. They should have predicted that people would be confused, right? So it doesn't matter if it was intentional. It shouldn't have happened anyway, right? Like, an accident is not a good excuse. That's all.